Have you also noticed that organizations today are no longer constrained by machines or raw materials, but rather the attention, judgment, and the decision flow? Every organization has a point called bottleneck. It's the slowest point in the organization, and that's the point that limits value creation. Bottleneck economics is as important as any other thing in the organization, especially to the manufacturing industry. So, I want you to see this from this perspective. Have you realized that those bottleneck points in the organization are not the data entry points? They are not the junior execution points, nor are they the software ends. But they are the reviews and approval processes. They are the decision making processes. They are the specialized expertise processes. They are those, it is the context of switching at the senior level. Have you noticed? Let's talk about this bottleneck economics because it is as important as having a CFO in a big firm. It is as important as knowing anything that is so critical in a manufacturing entity. First of all, these bottleneck points or bottlenecks in the organization, they are invisible. To the point that we all have a point where we need to have this approval, this yes to keep going, or this no to redo the process. So this process is so invisible because the person who is supposed to make this decision is the senior. Is a person who has been busy in a full week conference with a lot of emails sitting in their inbox that are unanswered, with a lot of to do or to go that is posted to later. I want us to talk about this. How do we utilize these bottlenecks, and how do we minimize the time we spend on the bottleneck economics? Let's talk about it. For us to deal with this challenge, we need to first identify the real bottlenecks. Let's identify the work waiting the longest. Let's identify and understand those decisions that are done by one person. Let's also look at the review queues. Let's look at the processes that have these reviews that are the longest. A lot of files waiting on the table. A lot of undone or unfinished projects. Also, let's look at the senior staff that are overwhelmed by the juniors idle. This is how it happens. You may be a senior or a manager or a CEO, and you have to make a lot of decisions as per position and as per the strategy of the organization. But you may find yourself overwhelmed or busy in the operational or in the daily activities that would be done by the juniors. So that is one of the areas that actually cause bottlenecks most of the times. That area causes a lot of bottlenecks because you are not focusing on the strategic view. You are not focusing on the decision, but you're focusing on the operation or implementation. That happens if you are still training. If you have new teams that you're training, a lot of time goes into induction. And it also happens when you had a breakdown. Usually when a system breaks down or something happens, the senior, they step down. Usually the senior steps down to see the problem. So in that process of you stepping down to work on the problem, you're not doing the work you would be doing. And in so doing, you're creating a bottleneck. So how are we going to strike a balance despite challenges happening? How are we keeping the track? Now we know where these bottlenecks are coming from. So how do we reduce them? How do we quicken our process? We're going to do one thing or two. The first thing you're going to look at here is to reduce the work that is entering the bottleneck. Now we know the area that is causing all the delays, limiting value creation. Let's limit the work that enters that area. How are we going to do this? We are going to standardize inputs. We are going to define checklists for the projects that are ready for review. And I do this, by the way, so much. Before I even look at the project, I have to make sure the prior steps have been done so that I don't spend time in revisiting the processes that would have been done by anybody else. Another thing is we're going to define the ready for review. When you say ready for review, what do you mean? What are these priorities that you said it must have A, B, C, D? Then you're going to reject anything incomplete, because the more you take in anything incomplete, you're going to spend more time revisiting, trying to see what is missing. But if you send a project on my table and it's ready for review, and I've defined for you what do I mean by ready for review, it means I'm cleaning up my table. I'm not spending a lot of time on the items I shouldn't spend time on. Then the other thing we are going to do is to push the decisions downwards. Safely do this. It's good to always monitor and always have a final say on certain things, but it is better to push decisions. If you are a CEO, push these decisions to the management. If you are in the management, push safely some of these decisions to your deputy, to your supervisors. Try to see how you can do this. First of all, it should be rule based. You must have a rule like, okay, if it is this like this, do it this way, or if it's like this, let's have a discussion. Because the reason I'm emphasizing safety, you may end up delegating on the key things, on the priorities that you should be handling as the owner or as the manager. That should be done safely. That should be done with ample training. That should be done with enough experience. And you have the trust that the person you're delegating to can do this. I dropped a video about mentorship culture. Now, that's when the mentorship comes in. So, by doing this, I believe we are trying to minimize on the bottlenecks, because as per my observation, bottlenecks are no longer at operation, but they are at strategic level, at decision-making level.